Wait, we've already done this one. This was the jazz singers one.
Oh, whoops.
So let's go to the next one. Question 13, right? So this is test 65, section 4, question 13. It's logical reasoning. And this particular passage is being told to us from an educator. It says, educator, reducing class sizes in our school district would require hiring more teachers. Okay, if we want to reduce the sizes of our classes, we got to hire more teachers to take on those students. Makes sense to me. However, there is already a shortage of qualified teachers in the region. Kind of sounds like we may not want to do this, but I don't know. Although students receive more individualized instruction when classes are smaller, education suffers when teachers are underqualified. Okay, so right now I see like this like scale in my head. Like you can get more individualized instruction, which seems like a good thing when classes are smaller, but your education is going to suffer when the teachers are less qualified, and there's a shortage of qualified teachers in the region. So it sounds like we may or may not be able to fill those slots, right? So, but does that mean you shouldn't do it? Maybe the benefits from a smaller class still outweigh the losses from underqualified teachers, or maybe we get enough qualified teachers because it just says there's a shortage. But how many do we need? Do we have enough out there, right? I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. You?
Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure where they're going to go with all of this, right? But I am thinking about, well, okay, we may or may not be able to get more qualified teachers, right? There's a shortage of qualified teachers in the region, but what if we paid twice as much as all the other schools in our region?
Yeah.
Or what if we recruited qualified teachers from outside the region?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
So it's like,
and
but
even if,
we got to point out, I think, to the students or to the listeners, what we're really doing there, which is we're granting them their premise that there is a shortage of qualified teachers in the region. But then we're thinking all the way around that premise.
Yeah.
To say, oh yeah, but what if we stole qualified teachers from other schools? What if we got qualified teachers from outside the region? You might say, what if we had a brand new training program that was able to rapidly get people up to speed and get them qualified, right?
Yeah.
So you're granting their premise. I'm not arguing with the fact that there's a shortage of qualified teachers in the region. I'm just thinking about ways that we might be able to get around that premise.
Yeah.
Ben was doing a similar, different thing. Ben's attacking on, well, okay, so education suffers when teachers are underqualified, but because they were getting more individualized instruction, maybe it's worth it. Like maybe it's overall better. Like I'll grant you that education suffers, but you just said that they're going to get more individualized instruction. So maybe it's worth it overall. I don't know. We don't know what they're going to like conclude here. So, but I think we both are already thinking these things before we even get to the conclusion, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, because you can kind of feel where they're likely to go with this, right? Like we need these people, but we can't get them. Okay, it sounds like they didn't say they can't get them, but it sounds like they're saying that, right?
There's a shortage.
And the last sentence, the last sentence says, therefore, reducing class sizes in our district would probably not improve overall student achievement.
Wait. Overall student achievement.
Now that's weird because that's never been talked about.
Yeah. You don't get to bring up new shit in your conclusion.
Never.
Like that's not where you're allowed to propose as many premises as you want, and they can be new shit, and we're going to grant you all of that new shit. But when you get to your conclusion, no more new shit. The conclusion has to be exactly proven by your facts, or else every lawyer in the room is going to tell you why your facts don't necessarily justify the new shit that you brought up in your conclusion.
Yep.
And here, overall student achievement, that was not what anybody, we heard about education suffering if the teachers are underqualified. But does that mean that the students don't achieve, or they achieve
Heck,
less.
like their teachers might suck and the parents step in and students actually improve overall because the parents gave up on the teachers.
Yeah,
The classes are smaller, so they're still doing better overall.
they're
I don't
getting
know.
more individualized instruction. So maybe, maybe they do achieve more. Maybe they achieve more with more individual attention, even if education has suffered.
Yeah.
Maybe the kid's sitting there with their teacher realizing, oh shit, this teacher sucks. I'm smarter than my teacher. And maybe that's the best thing they could ever learn for their overall student achievement.
It motivates them to take action,
It,
which is all that really
so
matters.
I think people think that that's like absurd, and it is.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's not a good argument. This argument is susceptible to the attack of maybe people achieve more when they have underqualified teachers and their education has suffered. It's not impossible.
It's still a possibility, and that's our
Yeah,
job.
right. Yeah,
If you
your
don't
job is
prove the conclusion, you failed. That's the high watermark.
right. Your job is to defend your client, right? So sometimes your client did it. Sometimes your client has a shitty case, but you still should try to get them off however you can get them off. And so here, if the defense was able to prove that it's possible that overall student achievement improves when there's more individualized attention from underqualified teachers and education is suffering, but the kids somehow miraculously achieve more. I mean, that's possibly how you're going to miraculously get your client off the hook here.
Yeah.
All right. All that goes
Question.
through our head in what, 10 seconds?
Yeah.
I like your periods. I remember when we were talking about the hockey periods and we were talking about the
Yeah.
different like pauses that we take.
Yeah. Yeah.
As we read, we're pausing as often as we need to after every sentence. But we get down to the end of the argument and we go, new shit in your conclusion. Grant you all your premises, but there's lots of ways that this argument can fail. Okay, now
We came up with names for those periods, but I can't remember what they are now. One was like predict, and one was like
it's like
assess.
attack.
Yeah.
Attack or assess. I like attack actually for the first one.
Attack. Yeah.
I mean, I really want people to do the logical reasoning in an aggressive sort of a way. I want them reading this educator's argument with a chip on their shoulder. Like, I'm going to grant you all of your premises, Mr. Educator, but I am not going to grant you your conclusion.
Yeah.
You better prove your conclusion from the premises. Because if you don't, I'm going to tell you all the ways that you could be wrong. And that's what you got to do in that first like attack phase.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
here are the 5 phases. First is to read the passage and make sure you understand it. Second, before you go to the questions, if you haven't already done so, attack it. Third, read the question, make sure you know what they're asking. Fourth, before you read the answers, predict an answer.
Yeah.
And 5, read the answer choices. Now, steps 1, 3, and 5, everyone is going to do. Everyone's going to read the passage, everyone's going to read the question, and everyone's going to read the answers. So to clear the deck here, focus on attacking the argument and predicting an answer.
Yep, absolutely.
Those are the things you're likely to forget.
Absolutely. Okay, so keep going. We haven't read the question yet.
Question is, which one of the following is an assumption required by the educator's argument? This is a necessary assumption question. It's asking us, what does the educator absolutely have to agree with? What is something that they left out, but they absolutely need? Without it, their conclusion has no chance of standing. And my initial gut reaction right away is based on what we took issue with was overall student achievement. Overall student achievement. I would say the educator is making assumptions about that, and I would look for answers that address that most likely.
Yeah, and here I might have like a couple different predictions,
Sure.
Because it's like for every weakener that I had, for every, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? They are making a necessary assumption that this isn't true and this isn't true and this isn't true.
Yeah.
So, for example, what if we pay twice as much and get all of the qualified teachers in our region? I mean, there's a shortage of them. I'm not disagreeing with that, but even in a shortage, we might be able to get enough for ourselves.
So this person is assuming that we can't somehow recruit them through higher pay or somehow better benefits or something.
This could be some like super swanky private school with unlimited resources, and they could just pay 5 times as much as any other school in the region, and they could just get all the qualified teachers in the region at their school.
Yep.
So because that's a problem with the educator's argument, the educator is necessarily assuming that that's not true. The educator is assuming, no, in a shortage, we're not going to be able to just somehow poach all of the most qualified teacher. We're not going to be able to get enough for our purposes because of the
Yeah.
shortage.
Yeah.
So they are assuming that, right? And they're also assuming, what we were saying with our attack of about the individualized instruction. Like they have necessarily assumed that individualized instruction does not always lead to an improvement in overall student achievement. Right? They have assumed that a reduction or a education, the suffering, the education quality of education is going to suffer. They're assuming that that means there's going to be lower overall student achievement, or at least not greater overall student achievement.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry I'm rambling, but the point I'm trying to make is that for every weakener, we could phrase it as a necessary assumption. Like, this better not be true, this better not be true, this better not be true. You are necessarily assuming that this is not true, and this is not true, and this is not true.
Yep.
Okay.
You're assuming that those weaknesses do not exist.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So and that's why, we go on the attack mode first. Right? We poked all the holes in the educator's argument.
Yeah.
Turns out to be a necessary assumption question, and so we kind of switch teams. It's like, well, yeah, you're assuming this, and you're assuming this, and you're assuming that. All of these weaknesses can't exist. All right, go ahead.
Cool. So, which one of the following is an assumption required by the educator's argument? A, class sizes in the school district should be reduced. Okay, I'm stopping right here. I don't know about you, but none of this argument was about whether overall student improvement should improve, or people should hire more teachers, or should get more individualized instruction. So I'm just done. I'm like, this is a whole different category of thought.
Yeah, the conclusion was just reducing class sizes in our district would probably not improve overall student achievement. There's nothing normative there. That's just like, this would or would not happen. Nothing about should or should not happen. I say in class a lot that should is like the F word of the LSAT. Like just something that like really pops out at you.
Yeah.
Where it's like, whoa, should. Whoa, hold on a second.
Yeah.
And we can't say that the author must agree that anybody should or should not do anything, because the educator was not talking about what people should or should not do.
Yeah. I mean, they're hoping that, like, the vast majority of the people taking this test probably agree that overall student improvement should go up, right? And they're hoping that you imbue that, bring that into this, and then start assuming that the argument is about that, but it's not.
And they're also, trying to trap you with not even recognizing the difference between would and should.
Yep.
Right? If you read this too fast, because you'll get students all the time who will be like, well, but it says overall student achievement, in the answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I know, but it also says should. And the author wasn't talking about what anybody should or should not do, which makes that answer conclusively wrong.
I mean, this just again reaffirms the power of reading carefully and understanding, right? Like, I so many times eliminated answers and never become even aware of the part of the answer that grapples other people and sucks away their time. right?
Because
Like,
you're reading carefully and expecting answer choices to be wrong. A is
yeah,
wrong 80% of the time. And when we get to that should, we're like, yep, that's wrong. That was not what this dude was talking about. And so we get to do a shorter version of the test. Like it's an easier test if you do it the way we're doing it, because you're just not, you don't have any time for bullshit. I don't care what comes
yeah,
after that should. That answer can't be correct.
can't be. B,
Yeah.
at least some qualified teachers in the school district would be able to improve the overall achievement of students in their classes if class sizes were reduced. Uh, this is the opposite of what we're
Right.
trying to assume. So that
Yeah. We
that
had to
we'd be able
read
to
that
improve it.
entire answer choice to get to the end
Mm-hmm.
of it. And that answer choice is definitely like on target. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that it would actually weaken the argument. The author does not have to agree with B. The author is
Yeah.
hoping that B is wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
C. Students place a greater value. Uh, Again, I'm just stopping right there. I don't care what students value or not value.
Where did it talk about what students value? Where students' opinion of anything was never mentioned. So
Yeah.
again, it's just real easy. If you're going slower, you get to go faster, basically, because you read
Yeah.
that and you just go, no, this educator was not taking a position on what students do or do not place value on. There's no
Yeah.
way I can say the author has to agree with that answer choice, no matter what it says next. So we
Yep.
read less than half of that answer choice and it's gone.
It's garbage too. I'm not even like, it's not like I'm getting rid of it and going, well, maybe I'll come back and check it because I didn't read all of it. No, sorry. It's just wrong.
Right.
D, hiring more teachers would not improve the achievement of any students. Ooh, that's pretty strong. The conclusion said overall student achievement, and I'm already like the hair on the back of my neck is standing up. Hiring more teachers would not improve the improve the achievement of any students in the school district if most or all of the teachers hired were underqualified. Um, I could see some students improvement or achievement improving, and then but overall it's gone down, so or not gone up. Um, so I don't like that.
Yeah, you know, question types do matter.
Yeah.
Once you've attacked the argument, it is important to know that this is a necessary assumption question. Necessary assumption questions are cousins of must be true, right?
Yeah.
We're looking for something that we know the author has to agree with this thing.
Yeah.
And when I got to the word any, this answer, the way I have it on my screen, it's laid out in 5 lines, but
Yeah.
the last word in the second line says any.
Yeah.
Any student in the school district? Wait a second. Is this educator taking a position on every single student in the school district? Why can't there be one student who thrives in this environment? The conclusion was about overall student achievement, not about every single individual student achievement.
Yeah.
And so it's that any there was like, well, you stopped. You were like, whoa,
Yeah.
right? But that's, you're doing it correctly if that's how you feel about it. It's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
if that word makes you nervous because you know that this is a necessary assumption question and you're looking for something that you can prove, then you're doing it right. Because yeah, that's just like, I can't vouch for that. If
Yeah.
that said some, you know, I'd have a lot more patience for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
E. Qualified teachers could not be persuaded to relocate in significant numbers to the educator's region to take teaching jobs. Yes, this person is assuming that they could not be persuaded to come into the region and take jobs because if they could, then maybe we could hire them. That's the answer.
Yeah, the author must agree that we can't just somehow get an influx of qualified teachers from elsewhere. Their premise was there's a shortage of qualified teachers in the region. Well, you must be agreeing then that we can't get qualified teachers to come here from outside the region, because if we could, then your conclusion isn't going to follow. Interesting, I think, to note here that the overall student achievement thing turned out not to be in the correct answer.
That's true. Yeah.
But it certainly could have been. They could easily have written, arguments tend to have multiple necessary assumptions.
Yep.
Arguments have one
Yeah.
sufficient assumption, the one that'll
Yeah.
prove them correct. But arguments have infinite necessary assumptions, various different ways that they might lose.
Yeah.
And they're still in trouble. Yeah, the overall student achievement thing, there's like even though it is necessary, it's definitely not sufficient, right?
No.
If you make
There are
E a
still
fact,
problems. Mm-hmm.
it certainly helps their argument. It covers up one of the weaknesses in their argument, but their argument still has weaknesses, which means that there's lots of other necessary assumptions. This is why necessary assumption questions tend to be harder than sufficient assumption questions. There's